Oh, there you go.
Alrighty. Well, welcome, Andrew. Thank you for taking some time to chat with me. I wanted to ask you a series of questions about your service. What was it that inspired you to join the service, and what did it mean to you?
9/11, when it happened, I was 17 years old.
Uh-huh.
And I remember exactly right after that, I always wanted to join, but my mom was totally against it. And then as soon as it happened, I didn't take no for an answer, and I joined. And I had to get their permission because I was 17, but I still joined.
Uh-huh. And what was it? You said you always wanted to join. What was it about it that attracted you?
Mm, I think it was the sense of just loving my country, loving being in this country. My father was an immigrant,
Uh-huh.
and he loved this country so much and wanted to join, but he wasn't allowed to.
Oh,
So
okay.
I grew up with that thought of I just loved the United States so much.
Oh,
So I want to join.
okay. And then 9/11 happened, and that inspired you more. Was that it?
That just made it in me that we're going to need people. We're going to eventually, I knew we were going to go to war, and we were going to need people. And so I felt it was my duty to join.
Okay. Very good. And how did it affect your identity as a young woman in joining? How did it affect who you were?
I had to really squash my femininity. I had to be more masculine.
Uh huh.
I was already more of a tomboy growing up.
Uh huh.
And then I just joining in itself, I just being feminine was a big no.
Okay. Okay. So, and you become more masculine. And how would you, if I may ask that question, how would you show that? How would you show your masculinity?
The way I walked, the way I talked.
Uh huh.
In the military, you have this very rigid demeanor,
Uh huh.
and the way I walked, even sometimes I catch myself. A lot of my family used to make fun of me for it because even after, I just walk very erect. You're very erect, and you give off this um, presence, like it's just like a no nonsense manner.
Okay.
And even the way I talked, it was very in clip tones. And how I directed myself at somebody, and then just I felt like a gentleman. Like, excuse me, ma'am. Hello, sir. This way, ma'am. This way, sir.
Okay.
Things like that.
So a lot of language like that. Okay. Okay. When you think of forming your identity in the service, what were some of your proudest moments?
I think it was when I finishing basic training and finishing AIT, completely finishing them with no injuries. Oh well, my minimal injuries, but being able to complete, I was very proud of that. But I think one of my proudest moments was getting deployed and then getting deployed to Germany for rear detachment. I was happy and more than willing to do my duty.
And what about being deployed to Germany? What was different about that made you feel so proud?
Being able to travel again, that sense, but I was proud because just knowing that I wasn't. There was a difference because it was in a combat zone, but the fact that I was okay with being deployed, like I wasn't scared. I didn't feel scared. I was just, I'm okay with it, and this is what I have to do. And if they told me at the last minute, because they told all of us we're going to Afghanistan, and they said I need 6 91 X-rays, which was a mental health specialist. I need 6 of you guys, and you guys are going to Germany. Okay. And so they literally just picked us as 6, which we were all together. We were a group. We graduated at the same time and everything. And so I was ready to go out to Afghanistan. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And then they were like, okay, you're going to Germany. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for that too. Whatever you guys want me to do, I'm ready.
Okay. So. And you were a mental health specialist. And what is it that you did? What kinds of things did you do?
Looking in the civilian world, I would say I was a case manager, and I want to say I was a therapist, but in the sense, because we were the in-between with the psychiatrist. Psychiatrists, they saw him once a month, they saw us every day. We did group therapy, we did one-on-one, but then we also did case manager work in the sense that we made sure their daily, because I was on the inpatient psych ward, not the outpatient. So we made sure their daily, everyday routine was set up, all the check marks were done, and everything like that. So I did a variety of things.
Okay. And in doing those things, was there any proud moments in your role that you can think of that were, you think, wow, that was a good moment of me being a mental health person in that situation?
Yeah, the other was two. One was in AIT training. I worked with, in Texas, I worked on a facility, a psych ward, where they had the most severely abused cases of the children in the United States, and they all came to this place. So you got children from everywhere. And I never thought of myself bilingual. I thought I knew minimal Spanish. But there was 5 kids didn't know no English, and they needed a translator. And working with those kids and connecting with them, and these were severely abused kids that also became, that also sexually abused children. So it was kind of like working with perpetrators too. I was, but being able to work with them and connect with them, that to me was really important, and I learned what empathy was. And then when I got deployed, one thing that sticks out to me the most is I had a couple of female clients, a few female clients, a couple though that were in the Marines, and they were just going through so much pain, and being able to connect with them and just to let them know that I'm here for anything that they needed, that was really important, and I was proud of those times, being able to connect and have empathy, because I didn't think I was I didn't think I was a very emotional person, especially having the feminism beat out of you. You're just like, your emotions is not a thing in the military. It's not. Do not be emotional. Emotional is for girls, and I'm just like, but being able to realize that, you know what, I have empathy.
That's good.
How it is.
And out of curiosity, those female Marines, if they were here, what do you think they would say you did that was most helpful?
And, I guess just listening to them. I'd say that, listening to them.
Just listening, and having that empathy.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, of course. It makes a lot of sense. And when you think of those proud moments, what were some of the values that were being reflected in that, do you think?
Well, we had a set of values that we lived by in the military.
Yeah.
So I think the first one is like, it's all about being a good soldier. But I think the most important value was being a good human being.
Okay.
That was what I learned in those moments. It's not just being a good soldier and sending them back out there, because that's what we were told to do. It didn't matter what they came in with. The purpose is to get them back out there. And if they're not suitable, then we're going to get them discharged, or we're going to send them to Walter Reed. So the most important thing for me was being a good human being.
Okay. And so the value, just being a good human being, you being a good human being was the value.
It was kind of, not being so mechanical and sterile, and just having that little humanness come out. So I think that was valuable, and a good value that I had.
Yeah, makes sense. It makes sense. And in the challenges that you experienced, what were the things, thoughts, actions, and people that gave you strength to cope when things were tough, when you were deployed?
Oh, that's a tough one. I guess knowing my family was there for me was helped me cope with the situation. I was 19. I was away from my family for the first time. AIT and basic was the official first time, but you're going through hell, so kind of don't think. But when being deployed, I was scared. And they don't make it easier when they take the women aside and they tell them, this is what you do to not be attacked, or stuff like that. So I was even more scared, because I was like, holy crap. So I think knowing that my family was there for me, being able to call them at any time, and over there, I did a lot of running.
You did a lot of running?
I did a lot of running. I hate running, and I loved running over there. I loved it. It's like living in a different world when you run, because it's the air is like crisp and beautiful. I don't do that anymore here, not the running part, because I feel like I'm like that.
So running was one of the things you did. Thinking of your family and running were two very good coping mechanisms, and that's what
They did.
And any other things you did when you, I don't know, you turned to, I don't know if you had any kind of other things you turned to, like some people turn to spirituality, some people turn to art, music, any other things, or maybe other soldiers, other service
I
people?
I did turn in. I was always a spiritual person growing up. I
Oh,
grew up in a Catholic family,
oh,
and but I really turned to it in the sense of when I got deployed. My dad gave me a little Bible. I had a Bible that I still carry with me to this day.
uh-huh.
And I went to, because I was in Germany, I was central, so I was able to go get mass by the Pope, which
Wow.
was Pope John Paul II, which was the most
Wow.
amazing thing I've ever done. But going back to the
Wow.
question, what's the most amazing? I was like, that's,
Oh,
oh my God, that was just that put it back in
wow.
me, my Catholicism, like just, oh, it's so beautiful. And like I have a holy water from the Vatican and things like that. So
Wow.
I did turn to that, but I feel like it never really left me, but it got strengthened in me as I was deployed.
Ah.
So
How did it get strengthened in you, do you think?
just, I don't know. It's like when you're growing up and when I'm in my family, it wasn't always talked about. It's just always there. It's
Uh-huh.
always there. You do your Holy First Communion, confirmation. When you
Uh-huh.
get married, you know you're going to get married in church, all that stuff. But then when you're deployed, everything that my parents have told me, my grandparents have told me, it was like strengthened in my head. It was like, if you're scared, know that God's always going to be there with you. Know that you always have an angel following you. Know that always say your prayers at night so you'll be safe and you'll always be protected. Don't forget to do this. All these little rituals that we did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it was like strengthening me because I had to do it on my own. It wasn't somebody reminding me or like, oh, it's always going to be there. It was
Okay.
me having to do it on my own. So I was just like, okay, like I remember this stuff and it makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I'm at home.
Uh-huh. So you would do that over there then?
Yeah, I would. I went to
Ah.
church.
Uh-huh.
Funny because I didn't so much when I was here, except when my parents made me. My parents made
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and things
Yeah.
like that. But when I was over there, I did, and I attended several different churches though, different religions.
Good.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Good.
It's the first time I ever attended a Baptist Christian church, and
Uh-huh.
that was so fun. I was like, oh, church is not like this. So fun.
Uh-huh.
But I liked it, and then I went to Rome actually like 3 times, and
Oh,
I went to the
wow.
Vatican every time.
Wow.
And everywhere I would go, I would always know to visit a cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Wow.
important things to. I get a cross from everywhere, a rosary or a cross that
Wow.
I have. Mine's just broken right now, so that's why I always go like this because I usually carry it with me, and I feel it.
Yeah. Oh. And the challenges you experience when you're deployed. How have they helped you in civilian life, or how has those strengths or those things that you did? How do you think they have helped you in civilian life?
Well, the challenges that I got when I was deployed, because in the military you get a lot of sexual harassment, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that was like number one. But that was to me was a norm for the whole 8 years. It's normal in the military.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to learn to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Really squash, like I said, your femininity down, bring out the masculine side, but not too masculine. You're butch, so you don't want that to happen because then you get harassed in a totally different way.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back to the civilian world, I guess I had to. A challenge that I faced was learning that that's not okay, especially in a civilian job. That's not the norm, and that's not okay. And you actually have rights, and you actually could. You don't have to stick with one boss. You don't have to stick with certain peers or coworkers and things like that. And that was like an eye opener because when I joined, I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
This was all I knew my young adult life.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I knew. Then coming to the civilian world, it's like this isn't how it has to be. So I had that choice. That's why I didn't stay in. I didn't stay in because of that. And then I was, when I came out, when I was going to jail, I was assaulted. So I definitely didn't stay in.
So while you were in the service, you got
I
assaulted?
did get assaulted when I was in the service.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not. I chose not. It was my last year of service. And it was that year where you define yourself, where you want to stay in for life. Because I've already been in for 8 years. Or you want to get out. And I chose to get out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I completely distanced myself from anything that had to do with the military.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in being assaulted, how did you get through that? What seemed to work for you?
Well, in the beginning, not many things worked.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of negative coping skills. I had a lot of negative coping skills.
Mm-hmm.
I still have trouble sleeping. I still
Mm-hmm.
wake up every every 2 hours, every 2 to 3 hours. I wake up even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I went to see a therapist 3 years ago now. It'll be 3 years ago. And I worked with it through her. It's taken me
Oh,
3 years.
and that was helpful?
Yeah, it's helpful. That
Okay.
I think was the most helpful. And having my son.
For your friends?
My son.
Son. Having a son. How was your son helpful?
He's, it was kind of like, I explained this to my mom. This is the only way I know how to explain it. You feel like your world's dark. Like everything's dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then my son being there, it's like having this light and shining light on everything, having some kind of hope, something to work for, something to keep you going.
So you would keep going for him, and he was light, as you said, instead of dark.
Yeah, that was before I had therapy. That was what made me stop with the negative coping skills. But then after I got therapy, I realized that I didn't want to put it all on his shoulders, so I needed to.
This may be a tough question. You said that your son gave you light, and I know this is sort of I have some idea of what the answer is. What was the magic that your son? What would he do that inspired you or helped you just keep on? Anything particular in his behavior, or just his presence, or?
Well, he would. I guess it was just. I think it was just him, just him being there. He has autism, so he as he got older, he was very similar to me. But it's not so much of that touchy feely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because now when I notice back on it, when it came to someone that he would hug, it would be me.
Wow.
Someone that he does be affectionate with, it's me.
Yeah.
So it gave me that like extra strength. Just looking at him, knowing that if I die, because I did attempted to commit suicide, and I was a cutter. So I just looked at him and I knew that if I keep doing this, they're gonna take him away from me, and I won't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I had a choice. I literally had a choice. I either stop the bullshit and go on this path, or I stay on this path and I will lose him. And the defining moment was my mother and father. I cut myself real bad on my arms. My parents came, they saw, and they said, I'm going to take him for the night. And they took him. And I was like, no, you're not taking my son. And they took him from me. They took him to the house. The worst 24 hours in my whole life. And I've been through some bad shit. And it was the worst 24 hours in my whole life.
Not having
and having him taken from me and knowing that this is what it's going to be like if you keep on this path. They're going to take him from you, and you won't be able to have him at night. You won't be able to do these things with him. And I was like, I got him back, and I was like, that's when I made my decision. It was like, do this is going to happen, or do this, and you can have your son.
Wow. So you, in a way, you just, as you said, you made your decision. You decided and said, hey, this is it. I'm going to do this because I want my son in my life, so I'm going to cut out all this other bullshit.
Yep.
Amazing.
So it was.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Probably, as you know, that sometimes things go wrong, and you've sort of talked about a little bit the things that went wrong in the military. How did you make sense of it to go forward? I know you said that you just kind of, when you got out, you just pushed it behind. Is there anything else you did to make sense of your experience in the military that helped you go forward?
Staying in contact with the good guys.
Oh.
I have several friends that I call my military buddies, and I stayed in contact with them. And staying in contact with them has opened up that little window that not all of it was bad. It reminds me not all of it was bad. In fact, if you take the whole picture, other than the sexual harassment, which was like a constant, but it's weird. It's a weird mentality in that part. But I mean, the sexual assault and even the extreme sexual harassment, it's a small part of the whole big picture. So they remind me of how the fun times I had, the greatness, how dumb stuff we did and stuff like that. So that's what keeps, the whole thing into perspective.
so the fun and the dumb.
Yeah, the fun and the dumb stuff that we did.
That's great.
So keeping in contact with them reminds me of that it wasn't all bad, and there's good people in the military.
Wow. And if I may ask this question, how often do you connect with these guys?
Weekly.
Oh,
Not
wonderful.
all of them weekly, but I connect with one weekly, and then several other ones. maybe monthly or whenever there's like a life event that happens. That's when we connect, the life event. And then I
Yeah.
just talk to them either like over Facebook and I congratulate them or they'll congratulate me. And one I keep in contact with on a weekly basis, sometimes daily. Just like, hey, what are you doing? You running a marathon again? You're crazy. Just, he keeps trying to get me back into running and I'm like, no. No, it's not the same over here.
That's incredible. You know, when you think about any kind of errors or things that went wrong or regrets that you had in the military, how were you know, mistakes you may have made, whatever they were, if there were any, how did you forgive yourself for whatever errors that may have occurred, if there were any? What helped you in forgiving yourself?
I think I'm still trying to forgive myself.
Oh.
I feel like I was really naive. And I don't know. It's just, I think a part of me is still trying to say, you know, you're young. You didn't, you know, you didn't know any better. And you trusted, you know, these are your friends that you trusted. And it's not blaming myself. I'm still trying to learn not to do that. So
not blame yourself. Yeah. You're young. You're a kid. You're naive. And
so that's what I try to do. I try not to, but I think I'm still learning how to do that.
Okay.
Can't do that yet.
And is anything you think telling yourself that is helpful and helping forgive yourself? Anything else that you've found that's helpful in forgiving yourself?
As of right now, no.
Okay. Doesn't have to
yeah,
be.
no. I like I said, I'm still learning
Uh-huh.
to forgive myself. There'll be days where I'm just like, you know, it wasn't my fault. Had nothing to do with me. You know. Blame the person, the perpetrator, things like that. But for the most part, it's hard to like really believe that because you think of all the things you could have done differently. You think of all the things you should have done differently. You know, what if I didn't open the door? What if I did this? So you think of all that stuff, and you're just like. So then you remind yourself, you go back to your tools, and you're just like, okay, you know, like. It doesn't matter what, you know, you could have freaking wore a potato sack and it could have been zipped up all the way and you could have like done all this stuff and it doesn't matter.
That's
you know, if a person wants to do what they're going to do, you know, wolf in sheep's clothing. So.
Yeah, very true. So on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being at peace with yourself and your service experience, where would you say you are today?
Probably a 7.
7?
I think so.
And what do you think would raise it half a point?
Half a point? Having more days than not of forgiving myself.
More days?
Yeah, more days of being like, you know what, it's okay.
Okay.
And you don't have to completely detach from the military just because of what happened.
Yeah. And is there anything that make it easier to have more days of forgiving yourself?
Not being in my mind so much.
Because
I think it's funny because the only person punishing myself is me.
Yeah.
Nobody else is punishing me.
Yeah.
It's just me.
And not being your
mind.
Except
for the VA. Forget the VA.
Okay.
But just kidding.
Not being in your mind so much. So what would you do instead?
Well, I guess just. And one of the things that I noticed in here is keep talking, even when I'm in my own mind, not forgetting the positive things. I would remember the positive things. Even as I was saying about how I keep in touch with my military friends and things like that, and remembering the positive things, like just... Because I think I'm always going to stay in my mind.
Well, we are. But you're also saying, by reminding yourself the positive, that makes it easier to forgive each day, in a way. It sounds like that's sort of, I think, what you're sort of saying in a way. So that's very good. When you think of a compassionate person that you know, whoever that is in your life, or whether it's in your spiritual life or it's in your personal life or wherever, what would they say you need to do to be more at peace? A compassionate person or entity.
Forgive yourself. That's what they would say.
And is there any particular compassionate person that comes to mind when I ask that question, or a compassionate entity?
I think of 2 people: my current supervisor and my therapist.
Okay.
And it's funny because they don't outwardly say that,
No.
but what they do and the way they do things, it kind of leads to that way.
And if they were here, they would tell you to. What would they say to forgive yourself more? Do you have a
I
guess?
think if they were here, what they'd say is let other people care for you.
Let other people care for you.
Yeah.
And from their point of view,
that would be me forgiving myself, not having to carry the burden all on my own.
Yeah. And if they were here, what would they say was the first sign of you letting other people care for you?
Wow. Actually, letting myself become emotional in front of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Letting yourself become emotional in front of other people.
Yeah. Or letting them ask me if I'm okay.
Let them ask you, are you okay?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Let them ask you. Yeah, that's wonderful. If you're okay. Very good. I've asked you a lot of different kinds of questions. In asking these questions, are there any questions in particular that interest you the most? Not that there should be here, that you found interesting or helpful in a way.
I think I found. I don't remember what question in particular, but it was the one where I thought of how do I keep in contact, like with the military or something like that. It was the one where I realized that I do keep in contact with some of my battle buddies, my friends in the military, and even some on a daily basis or weekly basis. And just like realizing that, I was like, whoa, like I'm becoming, I don't have this, like, it's not all negative. And I realized that, and I think that helps. That's a good question. So it made me realize that. So I was just like, whoa, like, yeah, that's what I do. And actually, it shows me the good guys in the military. That's what it does for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Not that I was that helpful with it, but I'm glad you found that question helpful in some sort of way. So very good. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with me, and it was a pleasure. All right, you take care. Thank you very much. We're done, folks.
Okay.